Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to embark on this honestly mind-bending thought experiment that really pushes the limits of how we view our everyday reality. I want you to go ahead and invite yourself into an imaginary time machine. We're not just going to sit here and flick through some dusty old history book. We are going to actively explore the deep past and the way distant future. We're talking about looking at the very fabric of human existence across the ages. So buckle up, because we're going hunting for this hidden architecture in the universe, a very specific signature that's literally hiding in plain sight across every single era. Let's get into it.
So, imagine we just slam the accelerator on this time machine. We're flying rapidly across different centuries, different continents. In one blink, we're watching the rise of ancient empires, the bustling Silk Roads, those quiet, isolated villages of antiquity. And then, in the very next second, we're zipping right through the Industrial Revolution and straight into the neon-lit megacities of tomorrow. The scenes out the window are ever-changing, completely chaotic, and incredibly diverse. Which brings us to this massive, really profound question. Amidst all this staggering diversity of time, centuries, and cultures, is there absolutely anything that remains unchanging? Like, is there a single constant variable in this massive equation of time?
Well, to answer that, our source text uses this absolutely brilliant metaphor of two friends taking this exact same journey. One friend is this very perceptive guide, while the other is, kind of a stubborn skeptic who only really believes in what he can immediately see or touch. So the guide invites the skeptic to just observe what they call the temporary physical worlds. As they're traveling along, they look out the window of the time machine and they see these temporary stops, shifting public squares, and completely fleeting exhibitions. It's almost like human civilizations are these massive world's fairs. They pop up, they showcase their incredible, totally unique architecture and distinct cultures, and then eventually they get packed up or just fade away. Their shapes and forms are always entirely different. I mean, you'd never confuse ancient Rome with modern Tokyo, right? The physical reality is just in this constant state of flux. Right, so the absolutely crucial point here is how we actually process all of this flux. Let's tap the brakes on our time machine for a second. Try contrasting that temporary physical world, all those loud, chaotic, and permanent shifting scenes we just talked about, with permanent attributes. Because if you can look past the changing costumes and the shifting architecture of the eras, you actually start to notice that the underlying mechanics of how reality operates, they don't change at all. There are these subtle but incredibly persistent constants that remain completely hidden in plain sight, entirely unaffected by the passing of centuries. And according to our source material, no matter where or when you park that time machine, you're going to find 4 constant traces operating behind the scenes. First off, a clear order of wisdom. Think of the delicate, mathematically precise balance of an ecosystem. That doesn't just happen by accident. Second, a distinct sign of care, like the exact atmospheric conditions required to sustain breathing life, no matter the era. Third, a profound trace of justice. This is where actions have natural consequences to maintain balance, creating almost a structural integrity to the whole universe. And finally, mercy. You see this in the sheer mechanisms of healing. It's like a forest automatically regrowing after a devastating fire, or just the overarching support systems of life itself. Actually, carefully look at these 4 for a second. They appear everywhere, whether you're looking at a microscopic cell in prehistoric times or the sprawling global ecosystems of today. These 4 traces are the things doing all the heavy lifting. So what we're really doing here is engaging in some extremely high-level pattern recognition. And to be clear, we aren't just talking about the human brain's funny tendency to, see a face in a piece of burnt toast. In this spiritual and philosophical context, pattern recognition is the ability to see the consistent signature of a conscious order repeating across all changing times. It's the realization that the wisdom, care, justice, and mercy we just looked at, they aren't just random events or lucky coincidences of physics. Think about it. When you see the exact same intricate brushstrokes on a million different canvases, you don't assume the paint just magically splashed itself, right? You identify the unmistakable signature of a grand conscious designer. Recognizing this exact consistency across eras, well, that's the real leap from basic observation to profound understanding. To really anchor this philosophical journey, our source text points to a fascinating scriptural reference that has actually been encouraging this exact type of thinking for centuries. The Quran, chapter 3, verse 190 states, "Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of the night and the day are signs for those of understanding."
It explicitly calls out the physical universe, the heavens, the earth, literally the very passing of time itself, with the day and night, as this massive canvas of science. It actively encourages deeply thinking minds to not just look at the universe, but to look through it, if that makes sense, to really search the mechanics of reality for those precise signs of wisdom and design we've been exploring today. It essentially tells us that this specific kind of pattern recognition is the absolute hallmark of true understanding. Which brings us to the end of our journey today, and it leaves us with a pretty massive question to ponder. We've stepped out of the time machine now. We've looked at the shifting temporary worlds, and we've explored the permanent attributes that quietly run the show beneath them. So I want to ask you directly, when you look out at the world around you, or even when you just study the past, have you noticed a recurring pattern in history? And honestly, more importantly, what does that repetition make you think about the overarching design of our reality? Take this lens of wisdom, care, justice, and mercy with you today, and just see if it changes the way you view the ever-changing world around you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep looking for those patterns.